Okay, I am back here with part 2 of the video. So if you've already tuned into part 1, then you've heard more about online learning. Please comment or send me a message, send me an email if you have more questions about online learning, and I can definitely find out those answers for you. This part of the video is to kind of preview what we're going to be doing, what you should expect to do in English 2 and IGZE English 2 over the next 4 weeks. So we're continuing starting April 27th and going all the way through May 22nd, which would have been our normal last day of school, with English 2 and IGZE English 2 content. So let me kind of tell you what we're going to be doing if you choose to tune in. So one thing that we were doing for most of this year, and you have to turn your brain back on and remember all the way back to the beginning of this year, is we've been talking a lot about social justice issues. So issues in the world that we as young adults, young men and women care about and need to learn to use our voice about, specifically to address injustices in the world. So if you think back all the way to the beginning of the year, we started with Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, and we talked about gang violence, we talked about gun violence, we talked about neighborhoods where we grew up. Then we read All American Boys in English 2 by Jason Reynolds, and we talked about issues like profiling, we talked about police brutality, and we talked a lot about protesting and our right to protest, what it means to protest. We read articles about what it means to be an activist, right, to be a person speaking out for an issue, and all the different ways you can be an activist. And then when I was gone on maternity leave and you guys were in class with Mrs. Werner, you talked a lot through reading speeches about some more social issues. So I know you guys talked about gun control laws in the wake of several mass shootings in the past decade, in the past 5 years. You guys wrote a paper about your opinions on whether or not teachers should be armed, which is kind of a hot topic, a debatable topic, a controversial topic across our country. You guys talked about modern slavery, issues like sex trafficking, some of the issues that are maybe out of sight, out of mind for us, but really exist in a lot of other countries, and even in our own country. That is something that you guys, a lot of you brought up in your writing responses that you didn't know about before. And the last issue we were going to talk about when you returned to school was this idea of mass incarceration, so prison systems, and injustices that exist in our criminal justice system. Okay, so like court of law, economic and racial injustice that happens in our criminal justice system. And we talked about this a little bit, those of you who read All American Boys, right? We talked about Paul, the cop, and what he did to Rashad, and whether or not Paul was going to go to trial. And a lot of you said, it doesn't matter if Paul goes to trial, right? Because he'll get away with it. And we said, why would Paul get away with what he did to Rashad? And so we talked about some injustice that we see in our criminal justice system when it comes to people having fair legal representation, fair trials, and fair sentencing. And I know you guys talked about that a little bit with some of the laws you read about, like the stop and frisk law, the Trayvon Martin case. So this is something, an idea that we were going to come back to kind of end the year. So while I've been away from school, a book that I was reading and got really interested in is this book called Just Mercy. And some of you may be familiar with this book. Some of you may think it sounds familiar, and that's because the movie just came out, and the movie has Michael B. Jordan, I know, in it as this guy, Bryan Stevenson. So this is a real story, a nonfiction book. It's called Just Mercy, A True Story of the Fight for Justice by Bryan Stevenson. And there's multiple versions of this book. This one that I have is, it says adapted for young adults. And I've read both versions of the book. And what I like about this one is it kind of takes out a lot of the like court vocabulary that's kind of hard to understand and makes it more about the story and more about Bryan Stevenson and what he does. So if you're looking for a book to read this summer, and you're interested in social issues and you're interested in criminal justice and injustice in our country, I would really recommend this book, Just Mercy. It's awesome. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I've heard it's awesome, and so you could watch the movie as well. But what we're going to be doing over the next 4 weeks is looking at parts of this book. So obviously you guys don't have the book, and we don't have time to read the whole book, and we wouldn't have read the whole book even if we went back to school. We were going to look at sections. So you can see I've like marked off a couple sections of the book, excerpts, pieces of the text that I took out that kind of teach some of the lessons that relate to our unit on social justice. So a little bit more about who Bryan Stevenson is, the author of this book. He is a lawyer, and he founded an organization called the Equal Justice Initiative. I'm going to pause this for just a second because my baby is waking up from her nap and she's crying. Hold. Okay, I'm back with Helen. She wanted to be a part of the video. So here she is up from her nap. So Bryan Stevenson, the author of this book, he founded this group called the Equal Justice Initiative. And you can go on and Google Equal Justice Initiative and you can find out all the things that they do. But basically, they work for the poor and the voiceless and for communities that are not always fairly represented. And they work specifically to free people from prison who've been wrongly convicted who have an unfair sentence. So one of the people he talks about in this book is a 13-year-old who was sentenced to life in prison without parole. And is that fair for us to sentence children to prison without any chance of parole for the rest of their life? So that's what he does, is he works with people who are in prison. And in this book, it talks about when he was first a young lawyer. When he graduated from Harvard Law School, he went back to his home state of Alabama, and he started working his first job before he founded the Equal Justice Initiative. His first job was as a lawyer for men on death row, so men who had been convicted of a crime and who had been sentenced to death to be executed in our country. And what he found out was that a lot of these men never had fair representation. They never had access to a lawyer in the first place. Or he ends up working with one man who didn't do the crime that he was convicted of. He finds out, and I'm going to show you guys a video, but he finds out that 1 in 10 people who are executed in the United States was actually innocent. So he uses the analogy. He says, if we were flying in a plane and 9 planes took off, but every 10th plane crashed, would you ever get on a plane, right? We would be like, no, that's crazy. 1 in 10 planes crash. But 1 in 10 people who are on death row are actually innocent. So that's one of the things he finds out as he's working with these men and women on death row. And so over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be posting excerpts from this book, so just parts of the book, for you guys to read and respond to. So I'm going to have some questions ready. And we're going to do it kind of more like a discussion style. We're not going to be writing a huge paper or turning in homework questions. We're going to use a discussion board on Schoology to just kind of talk about what did you think about what you read. Did you learn anything new? Has it impacted the way that you see the criminal justice system in our country? I'm going to be posting links to a lot of different videos that we can watch from the Equal Justice Initiative website, from another website called the Innocence Project. I'm going to be watching the movie Just Mercy, and anybody who wants to watch, we can kind of like discuss it as we watch live. So be on the lookout for all of these assignments. On Monday, April 27th, this coming Monday, I'm going to post the first week of assignments. So the first week of assignments will probably be a video to watch, a short section to read from this book, and I'm going to post the section. You don't have to have the book, okay? I'm going to post a section, and then something for you to comment about. So a question that has to do with what you read that you can comment about and that I can comment back to you, just so that we can keep engaging about important issues in our country, and so that we can keep reading and writing. Okay, because to get you guys ready for English 3, that's all you need to be doing every day is reading and writing, right? Reading 20 minutes a day, writing something. It can be a text, an email, a blog post, it doesn't matter. But the writing practice does matter, and we don't want to let that go before you move on to English 3. So if you're tuning in, check back on Monday, April 27th. Check in with all of your teachers, check in on all of your classes, but check in on my website for your excerpt from Just Mercy and your task for the week. And I'll be giving you more instructions on how to complete the task if you're not familiar with how to post on Schoology, Or if you're doing this from your phone and you want to write your response, I'll show you some ways you can upload that. Most of you guys already know how to do this better than I do. And if, I'm just going to say again, I said it in the first video, but if you need a computer, if you need Wi-Fi, if you need your password reset, please email me. Don't let that be a reason that you don't engage in your learning. Email me and I can get that fixed for you. Or go on social media, look at Overton, look at Overton Library, look at MNPS. They're putting out all the information that you need to get those resources for your families. Okay, so I hope to see everybody back on this page on Monday, April 27th for your first assignment. And then next Friday, we'll be talking about what you thought about the first section of the book. So thanks for watching this video. Can't wait to keep learning with you guys. Keep talking about social justice issues, especially this one, Bryan Stevenson's Fight for Justice. So thanks for watching. Helen says goodbye, and we'll see you back on Monday.